Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at different Bitcoin mining stocks. And let's start off with fear and greed. And CNN, we are still up in high greed, which is kind of surprising to me. And on pie vesting, we're still up in high greed as well. That's for stocks. Remember, these Bitcoin miners are stocks, even though they act like altcoins, so that's important to check. As far as crypto, we are still in neutral. As you can see, we've just kind of been chopping sideways for a while. Zoom out. Overall, still in this downtrend. Still waiting to see if we get a spike up to make a new higher high or spike down to get a new lower low. So we'll see. There is something to keep in the back of your mind just as far as where the market may be going overall in the next month or two. And you guys can see here that this is the average of what stocks do during election years. And you can see, let me scroll down here, you can see that October tends to be a pretty negative month overall. And this is just something to keep in the back of your mind. If there are any flash sell-offs or higher volatility, just know that has been a factor in the past. And of course, if you want to think about other things with the crypto cycle, we talk about on this channel the regular Bitcoin cycles that happen on average every 4 years. I do videos on this every Monday or Tuesday, so subscribe to stay updated on that. So going over to Bitcoin, you can see here that really we are just still chopping down and sideways. So one reason I put on the Heikin-Ashi candles, it cuts out the noise. You can see we get these waves of down and up about 3 to 5 weeks on average. And we had 3 weeks up, and now we're getting a red candle, a little doji candle. Let's zoom in on the daily, see what we got before getting into miners. So you can see here, this is a cause for concern, not only the lower highs, but also getting a sell signal right where there is support. So if that support doesn't hold, we have seen that Bitcoin had a pretty good bounce off the 200-day moving average. This is the light blue is the 100, the orange is the 50-day moving averages. And if it's not able to, let's say the sell signal does hold true, if it isn't able to hold here, then look out below. You can see prices somewhere around 57 at first and the low 50s. And guys, in my opinion, if Bitcoin is getting down into those areas, I think those will be very strong areas to buy. Not financial advice, of course, but just note that if we zoom way out here on the weekly, you can consider this a mid-cycle top for Bitcoin that we just had here. And last cycle, when we had a mid-cycle top, I want you to pay attention to these moving averages, the 50 and the 100. When Bitcoin was down at those moving averages, before the next peak, that was really the last best time to get in. So we don't know if there's going to be a flash crash like COVID or anything like that, but around the 50 and the 100, pretty good times. And we got to the 50 a couple times recently, and the sky was falling. The yen carry trade, the VIX was spiking, all that stuff. The VIX will probably continue to spike and behind volatility. We'll take a look at that pretty quick because that's important to look at. But when we're down at this 50 to 100, even though the news will be bad, it'll probably be a good time to get in. And as you can see, the VIX has been getting higher. That means more volatility in the market. So you could see some of these flash sell-offs, and that's just something to be ready for. Anyways, let's get over to our Bitcoin miners. And something, a really simple tip for all you guys out there, and ladies, whoever's watching, is that when you've done your research and you have your stocks, and I encourage you to start out with a handful of stocks or cryptos, 5 to 10 at most, and I'm not just saying crypto, but like other stocks as well. Really do your research and then just pay attention to those stocks every week. Just check once a week. It only takes 5-10 minutes. And if you do that, you will be able to get in on those opportunities. A lot of times, people I talk to, they simply miss out on some of the best prices because they don't continue to pay attention when the market's low. And I can tell you guys, the views on crypto channels, on stock channels, they're all down right now because people are just sort of lulled to sleep. So if you're getting in crypto now, you have an advantage. So let's take a look at Mara on the daily. And you can see all the moving averages have turned into resistance, got smacked off the resistances a couple times. Now it's fighting the 0.5. It has a daily sell signal. So if it does come down, I could see this lower level around the high $14 mark. If that doesn't hold, watch this trend line around 13, the lower area. But we have to get above these moving averages to be bullish. So I think Mara, if you got it somewhere around high 14s, 15, or even if it came down to 13s, those would be pretty good areas to dollar cost average in. You can see overall we do have higher lows, but you can argue that this higher low, you could draw a trend line here and it's breaking down underneath those higher low structures. But really it's just slowly going sideways and down, and I'm not really going to panic even if it got underneath this trend line, even if it got to the 382. If you really like Mara, I'd say that's a pretty good area to buy some more, and if this is one of them that you like. So RIOT, let's take a look at RIOT. And overall, guys, we've been talking about this trend line and what happened, as well as off the 236 macro fib. And by the way, I got that macro fib by taking this Fibonacci tool, drawing from the prior high to low. And as you can see here, trend line, macro fib held up really strong, push off the weekly moving average. You can see there it had a buy signal. And right now it's holding on. It wasn't able to quite get above the 50-day moving average as resistance. So if it's unable to really get above here and get to the 100 at around the high $8 mark, then you could possibly expect it coming down back to this trend line somewhere around the $7 range. So Mara, if you were able to get it at deep value, I think that's a pretty good spot to look for some, for some RIOT back there. Let's go over to Cleanspark. And for Cleanspark daily, same thing, kind of as Mara. We have all the moving averages at resistance, and it's at the 0.5. So I don't think this is a horrible area if you like Cleanspark. It might even come down to the trend line in the mid $7 range. But here, I don't think this is too bad at the 0.5. But again, if it comes down to this upward ascending trend line, or even the 382 fib at around $6 to $7.50, I think that could be potential good deep value discount areas to look to pick some up if this is a mining stock that you like. Let's go over to Cipher. Cipher to me is a pretty good mining stock. It's one that I like. Just because you look at this chart, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, the balance sheet overall looks pretty good compared to other miners. It's pretty positive there, assets, liabilities. Two, the chart shows a lot more strength than things such as RIOT. So you can see here, it did get down almost to the 0.5, but not quite. But you can see here a lot of sideways, or a lot of price action support, I guess you could say. You could draw a trend line completely sideways, and it'd show that's usually a pretty good area to buy. I'm sure there's probably some volume there too. All these moving averages, resistance, some support, but it's not quite getting above. And we've seen this on other miners. When it's not able to quite get above, sometimes it can get rejected hard. So 3075, decent area for Cipher, but if it isn't able to hold on the 618 macro fib, then I would not be surprised to see it come back down to the mid or high $2 range. Next, let's take a look at Wolf. And by the way, as far as bearish bullishness, I don't try to think either way like that, guys. But when I'm talking about lower price targets, I am looking for deals and opportunities. So if any of those deals were to pop up, that's when I'm looking to get in. So I'm not trying to pick out lower numbers just to be bearish. I really don't care about being bullish or bearish, but as far as just picking up some good discounts, that's why I'm sharing those price numbers, those targets. So Terwolf bleeding down a little bit. And guys, you can see that this lower high structure that it did break above, wasn't able to stay above the 0.5, tested it 3 times, just lower highs, but we do have higher lows. If this continues negative, where did we have the last bounce? I think this may have been when crypto and everything, when the yen carry trade spiked volatility in the markets. If it does come down to the 200, that might be possible good areas to buy. If it comes down even lower, the 382, you can get some Wolf at 287. Even if it came down to this trend line and bounced up, any of these scenarios, I'd say it could still be bullish for Terwolf overall. seasonality, Q4 tends to be pretty good. Again, I showed you that as far as election seasonality, October can sometimes be the last bad month there is. We'll see. Not every election year plays out the same, but this would be some price targets to look for, and maybe just in the short term, look for some possible deals on some of these miners. Let's go over to Bit Digital. So falling through those supports, 200, you would say has to hold, but last couple times it went right down through the 200 and got to the 382. So if you like Bit Digital, you might be able to patiently wait for some to pick some up here at the 382 at around 260, give or take. Otherwise, nothing says that it can't get a good bounce off this 200. So 260, 290. If you feel overall that your price targets are way higher, it can get to $30, do a 10x from here, then you might not really care. Pinch pennies either way. Could have a dollar cost strategy in. So some areas to look for, some Bit Digital. And next, let's take a look at Bitfarms. And yeah, showing some weakness, but higher lows overall. If it breaks underneath this area of $1.78, then you have $1.65 to hold. So I know it's looking weak and crappy, but you guys can't see higher lows. Hopefully it does hold. I'd say around this area, the $1.65 best area. But again, if you're thinking your price target is somewhere way higher, whether it's $10, $20, and you feel like you're pinching pennies, then you could maybe dollar cost average in half and wait to see if a lower price happens. And if not, that's okay. At least you got some skin in the game. So as far as Bitfarms, we would want that to hold. If not, then $1.31, I'd say deeper value area too, if this is one you really like to get in more than. Let's go to Iris Energy Limited. And don't forget my point, guys, about just if you have the ones you research that you love, just 5-10 minutes once a week, just look at those and see if they hit your discounted deep value area. So Iris still holding on to this trend line. Is it going to bounce off this trend line, or is it possibly going to durably break under? It has not done that yet. But if it did, then we'd be taking a look. Let's see. There is some price action here right in the middle at around $6.65. You can see sideways there. So about $6.50, give or take. And if it got lower, then around $5.50. So if it wasn't able to hold here, those would be my next two areas to look for. Possible better discounts on Iris, but I don't think it's bad here where it is. And last one, let's take a look at Core Scientific. And we have not dragged our fib out in a while, so let's do that. And you can see that Core Scientific continues to grind, make higher highs. So whoever brought that up way back here, congrats. I will say, as far as these miners, whether they're new IPOs, new altcoins, guys, I'm always super careful about these because more often than not, I usually have seen these in prior cycles turn into rug pulls. Not to say that all of them do. Sometimes if you've done your research and it sounds great, you can find great opportunities, diamonds in the rough. So this one looking overall pretty bullish, bouncing off that 50-day moving average, tested all-time high, or got to the all-time high, tried to test near it, lower high, so it is possible. It bounces here off the 20-day moving average, but if not, then you'd be taking a look for Core Scientific, like Set 50 at around $11. Now, if we add a big volatility spike like back here, then I think you're looking for that 100 or this fib, somewhere from $9.50 to $9. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video and have a wonderful day. Take care.